When someone doesn't call or text you first, the first instinct most people have is to question their own worth. Did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? Why don't they care as much as I do? But that's the trap, the emotional quicks, and that keeps you stuck seeking validation from someone who may not even be thinking about you in the same way. You have to understand this one truth. Asterisk, you do not chase what's already meant for you. Asterisk, and you never measure your value based on someone's lack of communication. When you find yourself checking your phone, replaying the last conversation, waiting for that little notification bubble to pop up, you're giving your power away. Every time you do that, you tell yourself, my peace depends on them, but it doesn't. It never did. Your peace, your confidence, your energy, they belong to you, not to the person who decides when or if they'll talk to you. What's really happening in moments like this is a test of your emotional control. Life gives you opportunities to see how deeply you can value yourself when someone else doesn't seem to. Can you still smile when they don't text back? Can you still move with confidence when the attention isn't there? That's the real power. That's emotional independence, the kind that separates people who beg for attention from those who naturally command it. The problem is, most people confuse asterisk interest asterisk with asterisk availability asterisk. Just because you're emotionally available doesn't mean someone else will match that energy, and that's okay. People express care differently, but when someone consistently doesn't call, doesn't text, doesn't check in, that's not a communication style issue, that's a priority issue. And you can't fix that by overreaching, over explaining, or overgiving. The more you try to prove your worth to someone, the more you teach them that they don't have to try. You're saying, I'll carry this connection even if you don't. And that's where the imbalance begins. Relationships, whether romantic, friendly, or professional, should be built on reciprocity. Energy must flow both ways, or it becomes toxic. You'll end up drained, anxious, and confused, wondering why you feel unseen when the answer is simple. You stopped seeing yourself first. When you stop seeking external validation, something beautiful happens. Your silence becomes powerful. Your absence starts to speak. The person who once ignored your messages starts to notice the difference in your energy. Why? Because you're no longer chasing, you're choosing. You're choosing peace over anxiety. You're choosing boundaries over begging. You're choosing self-respect over temporary attention. It's not about ego. It's about awareness. Awareness that your energy has value and that not everyone deserves instant access to it. The moment you reclaim your self-respect, your vibration changes. You start attracting people who actually want to communicate, who value consistency, who understand emotional effort. And suddenly you realize it was never about who texted first. It was always about what you believed you were worth. So, the next time she doesn't call or text first, don't panic. Don't spiral. Don't start overthinking or forcing conversations. Instead, take a deep breath and remind yourself, if my worth depended on a message, I'd have lost it long ago. Then refocus. Read something that nourishes your mind. Go to the gym. Work on your goals. Build something that demands your full attention, because when you pour that energy into yourself, not only do you heal, you elevate. And here's the truth most people miss. When you stop chasing, you stop settling. You start to vibrate on a level where only those who match your energy can reach you. You no longer need a text to feel important, because you've already built that importance within. That's what self-respect really looks like: quiet, grounded, and completely unbothered. When someone doesn't reach out to you, it's easy to think it's a sign that you're not enough. But often, it's simply a sign that the energy isn't being matched, and that's something you need to pay attention to, not chase after. Relationships, whether romantic or emotional, are not built on one person constantly giving and the other casually receiving. They are built on the invisible exchange of energy, on the balance of interest, effort, and presence. If one side gives too much while the other barely shows up, the connection becomes heavy. One person starts carrying it alone, and that's when the emotional weight turns into self doubt. Energy is like a mirror. What you give reflects back to you. If someone isn't reaching out, it doesn't always mean they don't care, but it does mean their focus is elsewhere. Instead of trying to pull them back with effort, words, or attention, step back and let the space speak. Sometimes silence reveals what conversation hides. When someone truly values you, distance doesn't make them comfortable, it makes them curious. They'll find a way to check in, to reconnect, to keep the energy flowing. And if they don't, that tells you all you need to know. You have to stop making excuses for someone's lack of effort. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they don't like texting. Maybe they're not good at expressing. These may all be true, but no one is too busy for someone they genuinely value. Even a simple check in takes seconds. When people care, they make time, not excuses. And when they don't, they rely on you to keep the connection alive, to message first, to follow up, to initiate. That's not love. That's convenience. You don't need to match someone's silence with more effort. You match it with stillness. When energy isn't reciprocated, the answer is not to push harder, it's to pull back and protect your peace. Because the more you overextend yourself, the more you teach others that they can underdeliver. Energy flows where it's respected. The moment you stop forcing the connection, you start allowing clarity. Either the person steps up or the bond fades away, and either outcome is a blessing because both reveal truth. People think attraction fades because of time or distance, but most of the time it fades because of imbalance. One person starts giving their all while the other gives just enough to keep them around. You deserve a relationship where effort doesn't feel one-sided, where you don't have to wonder if you matter. Because when energy is reciprocated, love feels easy, communication flows naturally. There's no guessing, no waiting, no silent games, just connection. So, if she never calls or texts first, take that as information, not rejection. See it clearly, not emotionally. It's not your job to chase, to convince, or to remind anyone of your worth. Your only job is to mirror energy. If they invest, you invest. If they pull away, you let them. This isn't about ego, it's about emotional balance. Healthy relationships thrive when both people feel seen and valued, not when one person does all the emotional labor. Real connection requires mutual curiosity. It's about two people reaching toward each other, not one person constantly extending a hand that never gets held. So, when the effort isn't returned, don't take it personally, take it as direction. The universe is guiding you toward people who will meet your energy, not drain it. And here's the shift: once you stop chasing, you start attracting. When your energy isn't scattered chasing someone's attention, it becomes magnetic. You'll notice people who genuinely want to be part of your life, who initiate, who reciprocate, who value your presence. That's the power of energetic alignment. You no longer beg for connection, you simply attract those who match your vibration. That's when love, friendship, and respect stop being effort and start becoming natural flow. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in relationships. People often think it means not caring, becoming cold, or walking away with arrogance, but that's not what true detachment is. Real detachment is emotional discipline. It's the ability to care deeply without losing yourself. It's learning to stay centered even when someone else pulls away. When she doesn't text or call, most people instantly react. They panic, overthink, or try to get a response. They send that extra message, check their phone constantly, and end up trapped in a loop of anxiety. But the truth is, the more you chase, the less magnetic you become. When you pull back with intention, something powerful happens. You shift from asterisk, needing asterisk attention, to asterisk, commanding asterisk it. Detachment creates space, and space creates curiosity. When someone feels like you're no longer orbiting around them, they start to feel your absence. They notice that your energy, once easily available, is now reserved. That's when attraction begins to rebuild, because attraction doesn't live in availability. It lives in mystery, in respect, in the energy of someone who knows their value enough to walk away from imbalance. But detachment is not about playing games or pretending you don't care. It's not manipulation, it's emotional maturity. It's saying, I'm choosing to prioritize my peace over my panic. It's knowing that your emotions are valid, but they don't have to control your actions. You can love someone, miss them, wish they'd reach out, and still decide not to chase them. That's strength. That's self mastery. Most people think power comes from control, but it actually comes from release. You gain control by letting go of what you can't control. When you detach, you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to make someone reciprocate the way you want. Instead, you let them show you who they are. If they care, they'll come closer. If they don't, they'll drift, and that's your clarity. Either way, you win, because when you stop forcing connections, you make space for genuine ones. You can't attract something authentic while you're clinging to something uncertain. Think about it: when someone knows you'll always be there no matter how little they give, they stop valuing your presence. Your consistency becomes expected, not appreciated. But when you detach and pull back, they start to realize your energy was never guaranteed. People notice what they lose in silence, not in noise. And when your energy is no longer chasing, it becomes a magnet. That's how detachment turns into attraction, not because you're trying to make them miss you, but because you've shifted your focus inward. When you detach, your energy rebalances. You start putting that attention back into yourself, your goals, your growth, your peace. You realize how much of your mental space was consumed by waiting for something outside your control. And the moment you take that energy back, your confidence rises, you become centered, calm, grounded, and ironically, that's the very energy that draws people back, because nothing is more attractive than someone who doesn't need validation to feel valuable. So, when she doesn't call or text first, don't rush to fill the silence. Let it breathe. Let the space do its work. Your silence isn't punishment, it's preservation. It's saying, I deserve the same energy I give. You're not walking away from her. You're walking back to yourself. You're choosing your dignity over desperation, and that choice will always elevate you. In time, you'll realize that detachment isn't about giving up on someone, it's about giving up on chasing things that disturb your peace. You stop waiting for a message and you start building a mindset. You stop depending on external responses and you start radiating internal confidence. That's when you become truly magnetic, when you no longer need someone to notice you for you to know your worth. Detachment doesn't make you lose people, it filters the ones who were never meant to stay. When you stop asking, why doesn't she call or text me first? And start asking, what am I building that she'd asterisk want asterisk to be part of? Everything changes. You stop being the chaser and you start becoming the prize. Most people spend their energy trying to win attention instead of becoming someone whose presence is naturally captivating. But real attraction doesn't come from chasing, it comes from becoming. The truth is, when you make your purpose, growth, and self-respect your priority, you shift from needing validation to commanding admiration. Becoming the prize means understanding your own value without waiting for someone else to confirm it. It means you no longer see yourself as an option, but as the standard. You start realizing that your time, your attention, and your energy are not free, they're earned through mutual respect and effort. You don't have to beg anyone to see your worth when you're too busy living it. You don't have to convince anyone to stay when your energy already speaks confidence. The person who truly recognizes your value won't need reminding they'll rise to meet you. When you focus on your purpose, your energy changes. You stop revolving around someone's responses and you start revolving around your mission, whether that's building a career, improving your health, or mastering your craft. That focus radiates power. People feel it. There's something magnetic about someone who's committed to becoming the best version of themselves. You can't fake that energy. It's quiet, grounded, and deeply attractive. Because confidence built on purpose doesn't need attention, it naturally attracts it. Too often, we confuse being chosen with being valuable, but being the prize isn't about who chooses you, it's about who asterisk deserves asterisk access to you. You're not waiting to be noticed, you're filtering who's qualified to experience your energy. The person who doesn't call or text first isn't rejecting you, they're simply revealing their priorities. And once you see that clearly, you stop taking it personally. You understand that not everyone has the capacity to value what you bring, and that's okay. The prize doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it commands respect. When you shift your focus inward, something powerful happens. Your energy becomes rare. You stop giving endless attention to people who give you minimal effort. You stop explaining your worth and start living it. You realize that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. The people who take it for granted start to notice its absence, and the ones meant for you will recognize it instantly. That's the beauty of becoming the prize. You no longer chase what's inconsistent. You align with what's equal. Becoming the prize also means emotional stability. You don't lose your balance just because someone doesn't reciprocate. You don't crumble because of silence. You move with quiet assurance, knowing that what's truly yours will never need to be forced. You understand that attraction isn't about chasing validation, it's about embodying value. When you walk in that energy, people feel it before you even speak. They sense that you're not waiting for attention, you are asterisk the attention. So if she never calls or texts first, don't let that shake your confidence. Let it sharpen your focus. Let it remind you to build something that doesn't depend on anyone else, your peace, your success, your mindset. Because once you become the prize, you realize something powerful. People don't forget those who move with purpose. They don't ignore those who radiate confidence. They might overlook you now, but they'll remember the one who didn't chase the one who became untouchable through growth. In the end, the goal isn't to make her miss you, it's to make sure that even if she doesn't, asterisk, you never lose yourself, asterisk. That's what it means to be the prize. You don't wait for a text to feel worthy. You already know you are. You don't beg for connection. You attract alignment. You don't shrink for love. You expand in self-respect. Because when you become the prize, you stop hoping for validation and start living as proof that you never needed it. There comes a point when you realize that constantly chasing, proving, or waiting for someone's attention isn't love, it's self-abandonment. That's where the next level of transformation begins, mastering emotional detachment through self-focus **. You can't control who calls, texts, or reaches out, but you can control how you respond. When you stop giving your emotional energy to situations that don't grow you and start giving it to your own evolution, you become unstoppable. This isn't about ignoring someone, it's about prioritizing peace over pressure. If she never calls or texts first, it's not a signal for you to try harder, it's an invitation for you to turn inward. Ask yourself, where is my energy going? What am I building? How am I growing? Because the truth is, attention fades, but purpose stays. The more you invest in your vision, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to those who are deeply focused, grounded, and fulfilled within themselves. That's why the person who once overlooked you might start noticing you again when your energy changes because they can sense that you've detached from needing them. You become most attractive when you stop seeking approval and start radiating confidence. That confidence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from self-awareness. It comes from knowing your value even when it's not being validated. When you truly love yourself, you no longer chase those who give you half-hearted effort. You stop lowering your standards for temporary comfort. Instead, you create a life so rich and meaningful that anyone who doesn't match your energy simply fades into the background. Building yourself means redirecting your energy from asterisk, waiting asterisk to asterisk, creating asterisk. Instead of checking your phone, you check your goals. Instead of replaying conversations, you replay your plans. Instead of wondering why she hasn't texted, you remind yourself of what you still need to accomplish. When you live this way, your focus shifts from scarcity to abundance. You stop saying, "Why isn't she giving?" and start saying, "What more can I give to myself?" That mindset builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. When you pour into yourself, you don't have to beg for connection, you attract it. People can feel when you're centered, they can sense when you're self. Worth isn't up for negotiation. That kind of energy doesn't chase, it inspires. It makes others want to be around you not because you're trying to prove anything, but because your peace, focus, and self-respect speak louder than any words could. You see, the real power is not in making someone miss you. The real power is in becoming someone asterisk they can't forget asterisk. And that doesn't come from manipulation, it comes from transformation. It comes from becoming the person you were meant to be, regardless of who shows up or who doesn't. When you commit to your goals, your passions, your physical and emotional growth, you raise your frequency. You become aligned with people and opportunities that match your energy, and you naturally outgrow situations that don't. So if she never calls or texts first, let that be your wake-up call. Don't chase, don't complain, and don't shrink. Instead, evolve, turn the silence into fuel, turn the absence into focus. Let your progress be the loudest response. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that every unanswered message was redirection pushing you toward your higher self. You didn't lose her, you found you. And when you truly find yourself, your purpose, your peace, your power, you stop needing anyone to complete you. You become whole, you become magnetic, you become the energy that doesn't chase because it already attracts everything meant for it. That's the essence of transformation, not proving your worth, but asterisk embodying asterisk it so completely that silence no longer hurts. It simply reminds you how far you've come. At some point, you have to stop asking, "Why doesn't she put in effort?" and start asking, "Why am I giving my energy where it isn't returned?" Because love, respect, and connection are not one-sided. They're built on mutual effort, on asterisk reciprocity asterisk. You cannot carry a connection alone and expect it to stay balanced. When you're the only one initiating, the only one checking in, the only one holding the space, what you're in isn't love, it's emotional labor, and that's not sustainable. Real love doesn't drain you. It nourishes you. It feels like peace, not confusion. But when you're constantly trying to maintain a bond by yourself, you end up walking on emotional eggshells, wondering what you said wrong, what you did wrong, what more you can give. You start adjusting your behavior to keep their attention, slowly losing yourself in the process. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because the moment you start overcompensating for someone else's lack of effort, you're training yourself to accept less than you deserve. Energy reciprocity means both people showing up emotionally, mentally, and energetically. It doesn't mean keeping score, but it does mean awareness, awareness of whether the energy flows both ways. When she never calls or texts first, and you're the one constantly reaching out, it's not about being needy, it's about imbalance. Love isn't proven by who chases harder, it's proven by who asterisk shows up asterisk consistently. Sometimes people will test your boundaries without realizing it. They'll see how far you'll go without them giving much in return, not because they're cruel, but because human nature adapts to patterns. If you keep giving, they'll keep taking. If you keep showing up uninvited, they'll stop valuing your presence. That's why emotional awareness is so crucial. You have to be able to recognize when effort has become one-sided and have the courage to step back. When you start mirroring energy instead of overgiving it, you teach others how to treat you. You show that you value balance. You show that you won't chase consistency, you'll require it. That's how healthy connections are built. When both people invest, both people grow. When both people listen, both people feel heard. But when one person gives and the other takes, resentment grows quietly in the background. It starts as confusion, then turns into frustration, and eventually becomes emotional exhaustion. The truth is, you can't make someone invest in you by investing harder. The more you try to force connection, the more resistance you'll feel, because connection is natural, it doesn't need to be begged for. You'll know it's real when you no longer feel like you're convincing someone to care, when texts come without reminders, when calls come without guilt, when effort comes without being demanded. That's what reciprocity feels like ease. So if she never calls or texts you first, don't take it as an invitation to do more. Take it as feedback. It's not your job to fix the imbalance, it's your responsibility to acknowledge it. Step back and observe. The right person will notice your absence and meet you halfway. The wrong one will stay silent, and that's your closure. Reciprocity is not about ego, it's about energy alignment. When both people are emotionally invested, everything flows naturally: communication, affection, consistency. But when energy is uneven, love starts to feel like effort, and love should never feel like begging. So choose balance, choose effort that feels mutual, choose connections that give as much as they take. Because once you understand the power of reciprocal energy, you'll never chase again. You'll simply allow what matches your effort to stay and let everything else go peacefully. There's something deeply powerful about silence, about learning to respond with calm instead of reaction. When she never calls or texts first, the mind immediately looks for answers. You start wondering if you did something wrong, if she's lost interest, if you should reach out again just to feel that small sense of connection. But that's when you need to pause, because not everything missing your attention deserves your energy. Sometimes silence isn't a problem to solve, it's a mirror showing you how attached you've become to external validation. The ability to sit in silence and remain centered is emotional strength at its finest. Most people can stay calm when things go their way, but real maturity is staying calm when they don't. You don't need to rush into reaction mode every time you feel ignored. You don't need to chase clarity from someone who's already showing you where they stand. Silence often carries more truth than words ever could. When someone doesn't reach out, that silence is their message. You just have to be brave enough to listen. When you stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally, you reclaim your power. You stop letting external behavior dictate your inner peace. You realize that your emotions are valid, but not every emotion deserves action. You can feel disappointed without sending that extra message. You can feel curious without investigating their every move. That's emotional control, the kind that separates strength from neediness. It's not that you stop caring, it's that you start caring for yourself first. When you stay quiet instead of chasing, your silence becomes louder than any words. It speaks confidence. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to remind you of it. It communicates self respect. It tells the world, I value my peace more than temporary attention. Silence, when grounded in confidence, doesn't create distance, it creates clarity. Because those who care will notice it, and those who don't will stay indifferent. Either way, you win because you learn who truly values your presence. The truth is, silence tests connections. When you stop initiating, you see who truly wants to be there. You see who reaches out without being prompted. You see whose interest was genuine and whose was convenient. Silence exposes what words often hide. It removes illusions and reveals intentions. And that's not something to fear, that's something to embrace. Because clarity is better than confusion, even when it hurts. When you learn to embrace silence, you stop living in emotional chaos. You stop needing constant reassurance. You start realizing that your worth isn't defined by how often someone reaches out, but by how deeply you stay grounded in your own identity. You begin to appreciate peace more than attention. You find beauty in stillness. You learn that not every connection needs closure, some simply fade, and that's okay. The person who truly values you will feel your silence. They'll sense your absence. They'll reach out not because you demanded it, but because they genuinely care. But even if they don't, your peace remains intact because it's no longer dependent on their effort. You've shifted the power dynamic from needing to choosing. You choose peace over panic. You choose grace over reaction. You choose growth over validation. So when she never calls or texts you first, don't rush to fill the silence. Let it breathe, let it teach you. Use that time to pour into yourself, your passions, your health, your goals. Because when your silence comes from strength, it speaks volumes. It says you're not waiting for love to find you. You're becoming the person who attracts it effortlessly. That's what emotional maturity looks like: quiet confidence, steady energy, and an unshakable sense of self that no silence can disrupt. When you finally understand that you are the energy you attract, everything about the way you handle relationships begins to change. The people you draw in are often a reflection of your own internal state, your level of self respect, your standards, your focus, and your emotional boundaries. When you radiate neediness, you attract inconsistency. When you radiate confidence, you attract alignment. It's not magic, it's energy. The universe responds to what you project. So, if she never calls or texts you first, the question isn't why doesn't she want me, but what energy am I putting out that keeps inviting this kind of imbalance? Energy alignment is about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts healthy connections. When you start respecting your own time, others begin to do the same. When you start setting boundaries, you filter out people who were never serious to begin with. And when you learn to stand in your worth, you stop tolerating half effort connections. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional with the energy you carry, because what you allow continues and what you release creates space for better. Every time you chase someone who doesn't reciprocate, you're telling the universe that you're comfortable being undervalued. But every time you walk away from imbalance, you raise your vibration. You tell life, I'm ready for more, for respect, for effort, for genuine love. That's how alignment works. It's not about getting what you want immediately, but about becoming the version of yourself that naturally attracts what's meant for you. And that version of you doesn't chase anyone, they attract everything. People often say, when I stop caring, they come back. But it's not that you stop caring, it's that you stop needing. Your energy shifts from desperation to self assurance, and people can feel that difference instantly. When your happiness no longer depends on someone's attention, you become free, and freedom is attractive. People are drawn to peace, not pressure, to grounded confidence, not emotional chaos. The energy of someone who knows their value is irresistible because it's so rare. Energy alignment also means you stop trying to control outcomes, you stop forcing timelines, you stop attaching your peace to whether someone texts back. You begin to trust that what's meant for you will show up in its own time and what's not will naturally fade. You no longer resist that process, you surrender to it. And that surrender doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful, because now, instead of wasting energy chasing what doesn't match you, you're using that energy to grow, to elevate, to evolve. As your energy shifts, so do your relationships. You'll notice that the wrong ones start falling away effortlessly. The people who were inconsistent become uncomfortable with your new boundaries. The ones who were only interested in your availability lose interest in your self-respect. And that's okay, that's the purification that happens when you level up. Your energy starts acting like a filter, repelling anything that doesn't resonate with your growth. Eventually, the people who are meant for you will arrive not because you begged for them, but because your frequency called them in. They'll text first, they'll reach out, they'll match your effort without being told how. You won't have to question their intentions because their consistency will speak louder than any words. That's what happens when your inner world aligns, your outer world follows. So if she never calls or texts first, don't lower your energy trying to meet hers. Keep your standards high and your focus forward. Work on your goals. Strengthen your mindset. Heal your insecurities. Because as your energy rises, so will the quality of people who enter your life. Alignment isn't about convincing someone to choose you, it's about becoming the version of yourself that only attracts those who already do. And once you live at that level, silence no longer feels like rejection, it feels like protection.